China asked Somalia to ban Taiwan from entering the country or transiting.
China noted that recently the Somali federal government has announced, according to its constitution and under Resolution 2758, announced that it would not accept passports issued by the Taiwan authorities and other travel documents, whether for arrival in or transit through Somalia. Somalia's government reiterated its commitment to the One China principle and stressed that hosting representative offices and having official interactions between the Taiwan authorities and Somaliland infringes on Somali's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This is a legitimate measure taken by Somalia as a sovereign country to safeguard its lawful rights and interests. It demonstrates Somalia's firm commitment to the One China principle, which China highly commends. There is but one China in the world. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory, and the government of the People's Republic of China is the sole legal government representing the whole of China.
China is giving direction to many African nations. Is this going to be a danger for the African future? We're going to find out about that. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much for stopping by. We're going to go straight into it. Somalia has issued a ban on transit and entry for all Taiwanese passport holders, and this is taking effect immediately. The Taiwanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs has accused China of pressuring the East African country into introducing the measures. So what does this mean? Somalia has issued a ban on transit and visit to all passport holders from Taiwan. And why has Somalia done this? You're probably asking yourself. Well, it's very simple. Taiwan and China don't get along. Now, because Somalia and China are in good terms, Somalia has to make a choice between China and Taiwan. Somalia has clearly made a choice. Now, I want us to go through this so we can understand why is this important. Is this going to be a danger for Africa, where China can meddle and choose what people can do? Because if you get along with China, you better not get along with Taiwan. What is the history between China and Taiwan? You're probably asking yourself. We're going to find out just now. But before we get to that, as you know by now, only 12 countries in the world recognize Taiwan as a sovereign country. The majority of countries in the world do not recognize Taiwan. They recognize China. Now, what is the history between China and Taiwan? The Taiwanese people are historically basically Chinese people that ran away from mainland China. And China today wants to take Taiwan back, whether it's by policy or by force.
China! No! Say yes to Taiwan!
But historically, in early 20th centuries, China was ruled by the Republic of China, ROC, led by Kim Il-sung, after the fall of Qing dynasty in 1911. A civil war broke out between the Nationalist and the Communist Party of China after years of political tensions and conflict. So there was a conflict between the Nationalists and the Communists, and they had a war between them. In 1949, the Communists led by Mao Zedong won the war and founded the People's Republic of China, the PCR, in Beijing. The KMT nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek retreated to the islands of Taiwan and continued to claim it as a legitimate government of China. So there are two parties. The communists took over China as you know today with Mao Zedong, and the nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek went to Taiwan, as you can see on the map, and still recognize it as China. So basically the same people but situated in this place. So basically the same people but separated because of war. The People's Republic of China, or PCR, controls mainland China, so the big China is the PCR. And this is the one that is recognized by the United Nations and most of the world as China. So we have the People's Republic of China, or PCR, and we have the Republic of China, or ROC. The People's Republic of China, or PCR, controls mainland China and is recognized by the United Nations and most of the world as China. And the ROC, Republic of China, continues to exist on Taiwan, which functions as a self-governing democratic state with its own government, military, constitution, and elections. However, Taiwan has not declared formal independence, partly due to threat of military retaliation from Beijing. So Taiwan has never really declared independence from PRC because they are afraid China will attack and destroy them. So China wants Taiwan back into China because they feel like they were the Chinese that ran away from the mainland. There were about 1 million of them that went away. They've created a brand new society. They've got their own system. They are more democratic, and they've copied the ways of the West. But surprisingly, even though the West support them, the West recognize PRC as China, not Taiwan. PRC view Taiwan as a breakaway province that must be reunified with the mainland by force if necessary. Taiwan increasingly sees itself as a distinct nation, especially among younger population, though it lacks official recognition by most countries. The US and others maintain an official relation with Taiwan and support its defense under policies like Taiwan Relation Act without formally recognizing it. Now, there's only a few countries in the world that recognize Taiwan. You're going to understand why we're talking about this. Belize, Guatemala, Haiti, Paraguay, Eswatini, Vatican, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and Grenadine, Tuvalu, Marshall Island, Palau. Now, we're not going to get into the depth of this because it's a very long story. Maybe next time, if you want, we're going to get into this. Taiwan used to be recognized by the United Nations. It had a seat as China. But in 1971, things changed around. Now, most of the Western nations recognize China, PRC, as China, no more Taiwan. And that is when most of the countries broke away from Taiwan. They stopped relations, they removed the ambassadors, and Taiwan was left alone. Only a few countries in the world are still friends with Taiwan. In entire Africa, only Eswatini or Swaziland has an embassy of Taiwan in its land. And another thing, Eswatini is the only country in Africa that does not owe any money to China. Most African countries are indebted to China. Now the question here is very simple. If you owe somebody money, do you say that you are free from them? It's very difficult. If you expect help from an entity or a person or anything or an organization, can you truly say that you are independent? It's not possible. South Africa refused to accept the Dalai Lama in its land. Why? Because of China. As you can see, now Somalia was one of the last countries to still have a relationship with Taiwan. Now they've made it official. They will not accept any visitors with a Taiwanese passport, nor will they accept anybody going on transit through Somalia with a Taiwanese passport. Why is this? Well, some people allege it's because of China. Other people also believe it's because Taiwan has made friends with Somaliland. Somaliland is this part of Somalia. It's a breakaway land of Somalia, which is not necessarily recognized as a free country. So very similar situation with China and Taiwan. Somaliland is part away from Somalia, but Taiwan and Somaliland have started recognizing each other. Then Somalia decided, you know what, because you are recognizing a part of mine that have gone away, we are going to stop the relationship between you and I.
Somaliland is part of Somalia's territory. China firmly supports the Somali federal government's effort to safeguard national unification, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, and firmly opposes the Taiwan authorities and Somaliland hosting each other's institution of official nature or having any form of official interaction.
Do you think this is triggered because of Somaliland, or do you think perhaps this is triggered because Somalia is indebted to China and needs China's help? So the reason why we're talking about this is because many African countries are running away from the West. And by running away from the West, they need to make partnerships with other countries. And preferred countries are clearly countries from the East, which are predominantly China and Russia. Now, can we say that we are being freed just because we're running away from the West and turning to Russia and China? Can we say that in the future, there is no possibility that we're going to be under a new colonizer in China? Because China is not easy. China lended money to some countries in the world, and then later on, because they were not able to pay the money back, China took land from some countries. China had a deal signed with Tanzania, which gave China access to a port in Tanzania, and Tanzania had no access to the port. China's duty was to refurbish the port, and Tanzania would issue China ownership of the port for 99 years. And it was only when Magufuli came into power that he said this deal with China is absolutely insane and unacceptable. The person that signed this deal was either drunk or absolutely crazy.
Tumelipa compensation kule Kigamboni ya ardhi, wawekezaji wanakuja kujenga wa China bandari. Kitu cha ajabu sana duniani hakijawahi kufanyika. cha kipumbavu. Bilioni 115 waliolipwa kule Bagamoyo, kama wapo wakazi wa Bagamoyo inawezekana hawafiki 20. Watu ni wa mjini humu na wala hela hizo zimepotea. Na wawekezaji hao wanakuja na masharti ya ajabu, ni ya kichaa tu anayeweza kuyakubali.
And he cancelled the deal. But after Magufuli passed away, his successor reactivated the deal. Do you think China is right about Taiwan? I mean, this is a country that broke away in 1949. Can they still consider themselves as Chinese? Because clearly they've copied the West. Is it right to bring them back into China? Or do you think they should be allowed to have their own country? Number two, do you think African nations are maybe shooting themselves on the foot by over-relying on China on help, funding, and money? Because China is a very strong power. As you can see, the trade war between Trump and China is not going very well for the United States of America. And China has stood very strong against America.
The U.S. has stirred up a global tariff storm and deliberately targeted China, playing a 90-day pause game with other nations. Kneeling only invites more bullying. China won't kneel down.
If China can stand up to America and push them back, how can China behave against an African country that wants to revolt against it? Will it be the danger that everybody is not looking into? Let me know how you feel about this. It was a great pleasure. God bless.